Hi, thanks for joining me at Anne's Space. I've been travelling around in my Sprinter van exploring different areas of the coast, and now I'm heading inland up to the area of Richmond. Find lots of interesting things that I'll share with you in this video, so stick around and see where I went. Just on my way to the Wiseman's Ferry. Hasn't been a very interesting road until just here. I came across this little hub. Beautiful cafe, had a coffee there, looking at this view. I came here from the north of Sydney on a winding road. The Hawkesbury River is a huge river used a lot for pleasure craft. Well, when I stopped for my iced coffee earlier today at Spence, I asked the cafe owner if there was anywhere I could pull up and camp for the night on the Hawkesbury River, and he guided me to this spot by Mill Pond Campground, which is in the National Park inland, but this bit's just on the Hawkesbury River. Very nice it is. Although it is 35 degrees, there's a reasonable breeze, so I can survive that. This is a map of the area, and this is where I camped last night, and this is the circuit walk I'm doing today. It's just 1.6 kilometres, but I've seen there's a couple of walks up here by the Wiseman's Ferry, so I'm going to go and do them later. So an interesting history in this area is where the convicts worked to construct a road. So they were trying to make a worthwhile route from Sydney up into the Hunter Valley, which was very fertile. And so this was pre the ships going up the coast. So they started on this road. It wasn't very successful, and it never really took off. The steamships actually were much more effective. But I'm going to go and walk it and see what evidence I can see of the convicts. So this is a reminder of all the convict institutions around Australia. So right from Norfolk Island, Tasmania, New South Wales. So even one in WA at Fremantle Prison. So they span from 1788 to 1886. So nearly 100 years we were bringing across convicts from the UK. And that's why many Australian heritage is from the convicts who settled here. So very rocky area, so hard work to get through. They used manpower, chisels, and they did use some gunpowder to form the blocks to build the road. So you can see the side of the road here, how it's been built up with rocks. It's a bit in shadow, but I think you get the general idea how well it's been built up. And they had to quarry out from this big rock face here. So yeah, it certainly was a huge mission that was undertaken. Example of the drains that were made down the side of the road, and even an uncovered culvert here. So this is going to be here forever. It can't get washed away. It's just surrounded by rocks that have been carved out of this area. So as I walk up here, there's various stories about different convicts who were involved in building this road. Some of them are very sad, but it's amazing the families of these people have donated the stories of their ancestors. It's just quite incredible to think that every single one of these rocks has been hand accessed, hand shaped to fit along these walls. So there's buttresses here to hold the road, or the wall of the road. Just the engineering feat is just quite amazing, and it's all still here. Of course a lot narrower than today's roads, just designed for bullocks and carts. No motor vehicles back then, I don't believe. So the convicts actually took time out to carve their initials and carve other things. This is the first one I've seen. So another challenge was this curved wall, and there's a culvert from the other side, and they've even put a ledge in to direct the water coming down to stop it undermining the actual wall. It's a naturally formed overhang. There was rumours that this was used as an area to hang the convicts, but there's no proof of that. They're thinking it could have also been an area to shelter gunpowder, but we'll never really know. But the steps are hand carved in there up into the shelter. So the gravel that's on this road now is actually much more recent. Originally it was built with cobblestones, so going quite a way down, large stones, and as it got nearer to the top, smaller stones, which functioned really well with the bullocks and carts. But once modern vehicles started driving on it, it started getting damaged, so they've put a covering on it to preserve it, and then layered stones and stuff on the top just to protect it, but the history is still underneath. So this area here is towards the top of the road, the Divines Road, and it's a stockade, or the remains of the stockade area, due to a number of convicts escaping. I think about 68. They built the stockade, and the convicts were locked up here at night. So there's a pile of stones here, a list of some of the names from the various gangs, and you might want to pause on this and have a read yourself. I think it's a very poignant description of this road. As I walked down here, I thought about the convicts who had worked here, their families, not only their families then, but their families now, and where they've ended up after being sent here from the UK so many years ago. So this area flooded. Those who have been watching my vlogs may remember when I went to Wollombi, and it had flooded all through there, and it also flooded all through here. So they're doing a lot of road repairs and restoring it back to hopefully better than what it was. So when the river flooded earlier this year, this ferry was out of commission, and for the people on the north side of the river to get anywhere, they had to drive an extra 3 hours to get to the other side of the river. So yeah, talk about being cut off. Well, good morning to you. This morning I've come to Ebenezer. So Ebenezer in New South Wales is known for having the oldest church in Australia, built in 1809. So I'm going to have a little look around and also a bit of a tribute to my son-in-law Tim, whose dad is actually got his ashes here. So I'll see if I can find Marcus as well. So it was surprisingly easy to find Marco, his memorial here. There's a few walls with ashes and also many gravestones. I've seen some already back to 1805. So prior to the church being built, it was already a cemetery, and it was a place where people would gather and have a service, even without a building. It's just another stunning day. Going to be another warm one. I think it got up to about 30 degrees yesterday. So I digress. This is actually right on the river, which is just a beautiful sight. I'll go up and have a look at the old buildings shortly. But just the ambience here is beautiful, and what an amazing place to have a cemetery. So there's a few really well restored buildings here, and also there's a cafe that does Devonshire teas, so of course I'm going to partake in that. So I've got my Devonshire tea, a couple of scones. Just a tiny wee church. So that's the ferry that I've just been on across from Sackville, and where I'm standing is a ski park. They have a lot of water ski caravan parks along the Hawkesbury, and you can see the sand up there goes right up to nearly where my van is. It's a beautiful part of the river here at Sackville. Love those cliffs. So I've come to this lookout suggested by Tim, and yes, not only is it a view of the river, but also it shows that the floodplains, like how fertile it is. I've seen lots of gardens, turf gardens, market gardens, and just this area is very rich in produce, that's for sure. So this is the view from Stretton Lookout at Freeman's Reach. And it looks right across to the Blue Mountains, which are west of Sydney. So this walk was recommended to me by the girl at the information centre. It's about 1.5 km each way, and it's at Gracevale. So I'll go and explore. So, like most walks, ends up to be much steeper than anticipated, but like most walks, the view is worth it. So, pretty good view here. So up on this ridge, you can actually see all the way down to Sydney, and I would think on a very clear day it would be quite good, but as you can see, this is not looking to Sydney, and it's not all that clear. There's certainly a distance there. I'm going to now head back to Richmond, where I've been camping after doing the Avoca walk. It was good, but it was really hot. It's been up to about 30 degrees today, so I'll go back and have a nice shower. Good morning from Windsor, New South Wales. Today I'm going to have a wander around in this area, and it's just about 5 minutes from where I've been camping at Richmond. So my first stop is this amazing church. This is the Anglican church, and hopefully I can get inside. So unfortunately I can't get inside this church, but I had a wander around and looking at some of the gravestones. This church has been here since the very early 1800s, as you can see by that plaque that was laid in 1817. This is just right on the edge of town, so I'm going to carry on and walk up the main street and see what other historic buildings I can find. So I find it interesting in this memorial to the McQuaid Park that we've got recognition for a female here, but here we've got the statue of General Lachlan Macquarie. Interestingly enough, in the media recently has been the fact of how few females are remembered in a statue compared with males. I think it's about 4% females, something like that. And here's the beautiful old rectory that belongs with the Anglican Church. It's in incredible condition, and all those little knobs on the fence have just been repainted. There's beautiful curtains at the windows. Just gorgeous building. This area reminds me a lot of Maitland. All the beautiful old houses interspersed with modern new ones, which are nowhere near as satisfying to the eye. These are just so picturesque and so beautiful, and with beautiful gardens and so many of them. And here's St. Matthew's, the Catholic Church. Not as ornate as the Anglican. So this building was originally built in 1820, and it was actually convicts barracks. So the convicts continued to be transported to Australia until 1841, and then after that this building fell into disrepair, and then it was resurrected again in 1846 to be as a hospital and an asylum. So it's had a long history and still being used today, which is fantastic. So I'm now in the art gallery at Windsor, having a little look around. So this is just one amazing piece of blown glass, but there's lots of different artwork. This is a display that's on at the moment, Aboriginal artwork predominantly. Definitely worth stopping and having a look around. Continuing to wander around Windsor, I've just come into Loader House. It's a shop, but it's also a gallery, and it's also a restored old building. It's amazing what I can see here. So in Loader House, not only are there all sorts of treasure troves inside, but also outside. They're just everywhere. And the back of the house is brilliant as well. And this is the outside of Loader House. It's actually positioned in the walking mall in the middle of Windsor. So just a lovely place to ferret around for a good half hour or so. So my next port of call is Windsor Museum, another free entry building. So going to explore, although I've already taken a photo of some flying rabbits, I kid you not. So yeah, I'm just going to carry on and see what on earth other little treasures they have here. So this toll house is by the very busy road going across the Hawkesbury River and also up into Windsor and Richmond. So just about at the end of my walk around Windsor, and this is at the old courthouse, but actually the old courthouse is still the current courthouse. Good morning from Shayville. Well, I have left my site of 4 nights at Richmond and I'm heading back to the Hawkesbury River. But on the way I've stopped here at Shayville. Tim, son-in-law, suggested that I stop here because this is where his family spend a lot of time, or his relations. Now it's now a national park, but it used to be an area for immigrants from Europe, also training young men from the UK, and also was a naval or army camp at some stage. So I'm going to have a look around. There's a few walks I can do, and yeah, I'll see what I can see. Just to give you some idea of where I am. So Sydney is here. I have been camping up here at Richmond, currently here, and I'm going to go back up here to the Wiseman ferry, then follow the river down, and I've got a house sit up here somewhere. So that's where I am in relation to Sydney. As I walk around, there's a variety of signs just telling you what buildings were here. This is where the maternity hospital was, so it had an 18-bed maternity hospital, so that gives you some idea of the size of this complex when it was up and functioning from about the mid-1900s to about 1965. This is what's known as an SSR hut. These were supposedly a temporary building, but they were used for all sorts of things. There was a number of them on the site. This was used for a canteen and also other meetings. Currently a number of buildings here. This is actually a national park, and it's a looks like an administration hub now as well. There's a couple of silos here. There's no information on these, but I would say that they were used for holding grain. In the area where I travelled in the other day, towards Sackville, there was lots of wheat growing, so not too far away from here. So this building that I was just reading the sign for, that was the mess. So it was the eating hall for when it was the migrant camp, and there used to be tables with families who would join each other. And then when it became an army training camp, big long table with all the army corporals in their finery. So yeah, it transitioned very easily from being a migrant camp to the army training camp. Very good reuse of the buildings. So just having a peek through a window here at the size of these mess halls. They are huge, all the way down there, and all the way down there. Okay, so there is a sign here about these buildings in the quadrangle. They were built in 1929, and they were built for the accommodation for the lads from England who would come to Australia to train how to work on the farms here. So yeah, I mean 1929, it's now 2022, so they're looking very good for 100-year-old buildings, which haven't been used probably for about, I don't know, 60 years or so. So that's the end of my walk around this farmer training, migrant camp, army training centre area that's now a national park. Now that was really interesting, And it's good that the National Park has taken it over and is maintaining and preserving it and providing such a lot of information that a lot of people wouldn't be aware of. And this place I don't think is even on Wikicamps. So there you go, something for me to add. This is the perfect place to end this video on the edge of the Hawkesbury River. So I hope you've enjoyed this vlog, and until next time, bye for now.